In early November, the Gold Standard Institute will be presenting Professor Antal Fekete in another series of lectures entitled the Role of the Gold Standard and the Vanishing Gold Basis. I would like to just acquaint you with what I know of this rather extraordinary man. When I began my study of economics, I knew very little. I knew as much as the average person does, that you need money to get by from day to day, but I had no idea where money came from. I had no idea about central banks. I had no idea about the connection between central banks, economic expansion, contraction, deflations, hyperinflations. I just hadn't given any thought to these. And I was extremely fortunate when I began investigating these issues. I ran across Professor Antal Fekete. He is a really extraordinary man, especially in these times. A professor of mathematics at the University of Newfoundland. Economics was the Professor Fekete's, I would say, secondary subject, because his love of mathematics came first. But his concern about economics caused him to devote a lot of attention in this area. And I think he's one of the few people who has both an understanding of what is happening and the academic background and reading to validate what he has found out. Of late, some of you may have heard about the professor through his work on backwardation of the gold basis. He discovered this as a result of his own investigation about the gold markets. At the time, he was a professor, and he heard that in Canada there was going to be a futures market in precious metals. Professor Fekete knew that this would be a first, that never before had a futures market been dedicated to precious metals. So what the professor did on his salary is he went down and bought a seat on the exchange in Winnipeg. He didn't go there to speculate. He didn't go there to make a fortune. He went there to observe how the markets acted, how a futures market in gold and silver would perform in real time. This is the kind of leadership, inquiry, and intellectual integrity that he has brought to the table. Because of his investigation of the futures market, Professor Fekete learned about the basis, which was a trading mechanism by which traders in the futures market with commodities did not trade by price. They trade on what they call the basis. Professor Fekete then applied this to precious metals. And it was his work here that gained him some exposure in the last 2 years about the basis as it relates to the price of gold and silver. Also in the last year, Professor Fekete spoke at the Committee for Monetary Reform and Education, a very, very prestigious group in New York that's been active for decades investigating the role of money in these changing times. At that conference was Dr. Robert Mundell, who was the 1999 Nobel Prize winner in economics. As a result of what he heard at the conference from Professor Fekete's talk, he invited the professor to attend his economic roundtable that was held this summer in Italy. At that conference was Paul Volcker, who was a former chairman of the U.S. Fed, who the professor had met at Princeton when the professor was there doing some teaching, and had run into Volcker, and this was before Volcker became chairman. And as a result of the conversation, Paul Volcker allowed the Professor Fekete to present a seminar on gold at the seminar he was conducting at that time. This is an unusual man in that he stands outside the economic establishment whose current thought is responsible for our present predicament. Professor Fekete brings not only a fresh view, but he brings what I consider to be an unparalleled integrity and unparalleled humanity to the table. To learn more about Professor Fekete, you might want to check out his website, www.professorfekete.com, and also see what Wikipedia has to say about this extraordinary gentleman. He will be speaking at the Gold Standard Institute's seminar held in early November in Australia. And if you have the time, the inclination, and the desire to hear this extraordinary man, I suggest that you do so. I have been listening to him and following him for several years, and I am always amazed at what I learn by being in his presence. Thank you.